The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We are no longer a Christian nation.
We do not consider ourselves a Christian nation.
The United States has been enriched by Muslim Americans. Since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States. Islam has always been a part of America's story. There is a mosque in every state in our union and over 1,200 mosques within our borders.
One of the points I want to make is that if you actually took the number of Muslims Americans, we'd be one of the largest Muslim countries in the world.
Let there be no doubt, Islam is a part of America. Many other Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim majority country. No, because I am one of them. But my father came from a Kenyan family that includes generations of Muslims. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction.
You are absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith.
We will convey our deep appreciation for the Islamic faith, which has done so much over the centuries to shape the world.
I would like to speak directly to the people and leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their great and celebrated culture. Over many centuries, your art, your music, literature, and innovation have made the world a better and more beautiful place. We know that you are a great civilization, and your accomplishments have earned the respect of the United States and the world.
I also know civilization's debt to Islam. It was Islam at places like Uluzada that carried the light of learning through so many centuries, paving the way for Europe's Renaissance and Enlightenment. It was innovation in Muslim communities that developed the order of algebra. Islamic culture has given us majestic arches and soaring spires, timeless poetry and cherished music, elegant calligraphy, and places of peaceful contemplation. They have fought in our wars, they have served in our government, they have stood for civil rights, they have started businesses, they have taught at our universities, they've excelled in our sports arenas, they've won Nobel Prizes, built our tallest building, and lit the Olympic torch. And when the first Muslim American was recently elected to Congress, he took the oath to defend our Constitution using the same Holy Quran. In ancient times and in our times, Muslim communities have been at the forefront of innovation and education. Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It is an important part of promoting peace. The enduring faith of over 1 billion people is so much bigger than the narrow hatred of a few. In the United States, rules on charitable giving have made it harder for Muslims to fulfill their religious obligation. That's why I'm committed to working with American Muslims to ensure that they can fulfill zakat. It is important for Western countries to avoid impeding Muslim citizens from practicing religion as they see fit. And I consider it part of my responsibility as President of the United States to fight against negative stereotypes of Islam wherever they appear. I'm grateful for your hospitality and the hospitality of the people of Egypt. And I'm also proud to carry with me the goodwill of the American people and a greeting of peace from Muslim communities in my country. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. It is inexplicable, bordering on pathological, how incapable this president is of uttering the phrase radical Islam, or talking about how the hijacking of Islam has created war and death and misery and slavery and radical Islamic terror. I don't understand it. Anyway, joining us to go through this important issue, we have Pam Geller and Robert Spencer, authors of the Post-American Presidency, Obama's War on America, and Stop the Islamization of America. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, you both hear that. Pam, what's your reaction to that?
Well, we see historical revisionism taking on a new life as Obama continues to scrub and manufacture these Muslim myths. The idea that Obama called the Chattanooga jihad mass murderer a lone gunman is like calling Hitler a painter. Here we are, and I believe that this jihad denial is responsible for this kind of now rampant, on the rise jihad in America. ISIS is here. The Islamic State is here. The only difference between the Garland, Texas jihad, where our free speech event was the target of jihadists just like Muhammad Abdul Aziz, the only difference is that we were armed and that we were prepared. And I said at the time, and of course I was derided and ridiculed for saying that this is just the beginning, that the war is here. But I was right. Spencer and I have been right all along. This is just the beginning. The idea that our armed forces cannot carry weapons, particularly after the Fort Hood jihadi, particularly after the Arkansas recruiting center jihad, and President Obama disarming law enforcement, disarming our intel agencies by scrubbing our counterterrorism materials. That's disarming law enforcement, led to this kind of, rampant jihadism. And further, what I find incredibly disturbing is that the leading Department of Justice official, William Killian, and you saw him at the press conference yesterday, and he was, you could see he was, backpedaling from Reinhardt's remarks, is that the Department of Justice official leading the investigation has called for the criminalization of criticism of Islam on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. I led, along with Robert Spencer, a protest against William Killian last year for his vow to criminalize. It's Sharia, the enforcement of Sharia, and the Department of Justice backed down from it. But let me ask you something, Sean. Do you have any faith in a DOJ official who vows to criminalize any criticism of Islam?
I don't have any faith in this Justice Department at all, except to go after conservatives, like the IRS will only go after conservatives. Yeah, that's about where my faith is.
I mean, if you consider the fact that the Islamic State had been warning for months about attacks on military personnel, I find it a stunning indictment of the Obama administration that every single military installation was not on. Look, if you remember, after Garland, every military base was put on Bravo, threat level Bravo. That was the first time since 9/11. What happened? It was May 3rd. Garland, Texas jihad was May 3rd. And I'm glad to see that the media is not blaming the Marines the way they blamed myself and Mr. Spencer, saying that the Marines, quote unquote, incited Abdul Aziz or provoked.
Here's what's inexplicable to me. Here, the president will be quick to rush to judgment in Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Gardner, but the president, every time there's an incident, it is still the official position of the United States government that Major Hassan, screaming Allahu Akbar and killing all of those people at Fort Hood, that was, quote, an incident of workplace violence. That is still their official position. It was not workplace violence. The president makes his arguments after this incident yesterday, and I'm listening to him, and I'm like, what part of this don't you understand, or do you refuse to understand that we have amongst us? Jonah Goldberg wrote a piece, Zero Tolerance for the Confederate Flag, Nuance for Islamic Terror. The president won't say it's radical Islam at work. Why can't he say that? We take the shooting seriously, the president. Why can't he say radical Islamic terrorism, considering we know that ISIS is celebrating this? Is that not true, Robert Spencer?
Oh, absolutely. And when you played that breathtaking collection of Obama's statements at the beginning of the segment, Sean, I'm thinking, hearing all this together, it's really clear that Barack Obama wants to construct an idea of Islam that is contrary to reality, to ignore and deny the reality of Islamic jihad, to treat every incident of Islamic jihad as if it were some separate, discrete incident of law-breaking that has nothing to do with the larger ideology, and meanwhile fool Americans into thinking that there is some Islamic presence in the United States all the way back to the Revolution and all the way through American history, making positive contributions to the United States and its national character.
Well, if you listen to him, I mean, you would think that...
What would he be doing that for? But it's unmistakable.
Well, you would think that the country was not founded on Judeo-Christian principles, of which it was, that you would believe, listening to Obama, that it was founded on the Quran.
Yeah, exactly. That he's constructing
he's just factually wrong, and
mythology of the United States as an Islamic entity.
It is almost a pathological, obsessive-compulsive tendency that this man has to ignore radical Islamists, ignore the threat of radical Islam, and to extol the virtues of Islam, to sort of indoctrinate us into something. I'm just not sure what he's doing. I mean, that's maybe my point. I have no idea. I mean, this is the guy that told Nicholas Kristof that, you know, as when he was going to a Muslim school in Jakarta, that the call to prayer, there's nothing more beautiful than the call to Muslim prayer at sunset.
Yeah.
He's not clueless.
The thing about it is inexplicable as to what on earth his ultimate endgame could be. But we do know one thing, and that is that it endangers us all. And that it's hamstringing law enforcement's ability to deal with this threat. You cannot possibly defeat a threat that you refuse to understand and refuse to deal with honestly.
He's not clueless. He is complicit. You know, in the book that I wrote along with Spencer, The Post-American Presidency, which, by the way, the original title was Jihad in the White House, but Simon Schuster thought it was too fiery and too out there, and clearly it was sagacious, it was prescient. We outline this warning, the idea that he did take Quranic classes. His schoolmates said that he was the most proficient. So it's not as if he's clueless. He knows very well what is in the Quran. He understands, for example, Islamic Jew hatred. He understands the Jew hatred that's extolled and exhorted in Iran while he aids and abets in their nuclear weapons program. I submit to you that this is neither cluelessness or naivety. We hear that a lot, naivety. This is very deliberate. He is, at the very least, Islamophilic. He is...
Whoa, what is Islamophiliac? What is that?
It's sympathetic to Islam. I mean, look, I can't say what's in his heart. And whether, you know, I get this all the time, you say he's a secret Muslim, which I've never said. My question is not whether he's a secret Muslim or not. My question is, what would he be doing differently if he was? And the answer is nothing. And that's what, you know, by their fruits, Jesus said, by their fruits you shall know them. And so we know him. This is not accidental, what we're seeing. By no stretch of the imagination. The aiding and the abetting of, quote-unquote, remember this, moderate Al-Qaeda in Syria. What the hell? That's like saying a chaste prostitute, moderate Al-Qaeda. And moderate Al-Qaeda was the Islamic State. There was no Islamic State before the Obama presidency. Again, he has aided and abetted. I'm not saying he created the Islamic State, but he clearly created the vacuum and the importing of hundreds of thousands of Muslims from jihad nations without vetting them. I mean, those chickens, just to quote his favorite reverend, right, have not even come home to roost yet, Sean. They're here.
Robert?
Absolutely. And this is all clearly a concerted effort. Here again, when we hear that lengthy praise of Islam, one statement after another, this fulsome fictional praise for this the supposed Islamic presence in the United States, it's clear that he's made a conscious decision to try to bolster the position of Islam in the United States. And it's clear. I mean, the man's not stupid. He obviously has a very, very well thought out agenda in this regard.
I mean, when you consider that he sent a letter of commendation, a letter of thanks, to the Ohio Mosque, not a week after the beheading of Colleen Hufford by a devout Muslim, and where an informant, which Robert had revealed, an informant at that mosque had said that mosque is teaching hatred of America, that mosque is advancing jihad. And we know from not one, not two, but three separate surveys over the past 10 years that over 80% of the mosques in America are advancing or promoting jihad. He sends a letter to this mosque where it comes out that they're teaching jihad, thanking them, a letter of commendation. Again, I mean, this is not cluelessness. This is very deliberate. Why isn't the Islamic Society of Boston, the mosque behind the Boston bombings, the mosque behind the Boston beheading plot, the plot to behead me and policemen, why aren't they under surveillance? Why isn't the mosque in Ohio under surveillance? Why isn't the Phoenix Mosque that was behind the Garland jihad shooting, where not just those jihadists went, but two previous jihadists who are now serving time for jihad-related crimes? And they were caught lying. They were caught lying about raising money for the jihad, those two jihadists, when they were previously arrested. They had posted the $100,000 bond.
I got a break here, though, Pam. I wish
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.